In July 2024, during the Paris Olympics, a drone appeared over a New Zealand women's soccer team training session. It wasn't a fan's gadget or media drone. It was being operated by Canada Soccer's staff. French police quickly learned that the drone pilot, an unaccredited analyst named Joseph Lombardi, had been recording New Zealand's closed practice just days before both nations were set to clash in the group stage. Lombardi wasn't freelancing. He'd traveled with the Canadian women's team as part of their support staff and deliberately positioned the drone to capture formations, set pieces, and player movement, tactical details that teams guard closely, especially before Olympic competition. When New Zealand officials noticed the drone, they alerted authorities, leading to Lombardi's detention for questioning. The breach was blatant. It violated Olympic regulations, French privacy law, and the base principle of fair play. The Olympic soccer tournament is one of the sport's most strictly monitored events, and trust between teams is essential. By resorting to covert surveillance, Canada Soccer had crossed the line from preparation into cheating immediate fallout. Once the incident became public, FIFA opened an emergency investigation. The following days brought swift, unprecedented punishment. Head coach Bev Priestman was sent home mid-tournament and suspended from all soccer activities. Lombardi and assistant coach Jasmine Mander were also expelled from the Olympic grounds and handed immediate bans. FIFA didn't stop at removals. Canada was deducted 6 points before playing a single match, an almost insurmountable handicap in a 3-game group stage. Teams earned 3 points per win. Starting at -6 effectively meant Canada needed 3 straight victories to even have a chance of advancing. The shock was felt worldwide. This was one of the harshest competitive penalties ever issued in Olympic soccer. Canada Soccer and the Canadian Olympic Committee both accepted responsibility without appeal. Priestman issued a brief apology, saying she took full accountability, though it remained unclear whether she'd ordered or merely tolerated the surveillance. The severity and pace of the sanctions made clear. FIFA viewed this as systemic misconduct, not a one-time error. A system of spying. Soon, the story grew darker. Investigations by Canadian outlet TSN uncovered that the drone spying wasn't a freak occurrence. It had been routine within Canada Soccer for years. Former staff claimed drones had been used by both men's and women's programs to film opponents' training sessions in past tournaments. This wasn't an impulsive act. It was part of a culture. Sources described an environment where results trumped ethics, where staff openly discussed gathering private footage as if it were standard analysis. Some former players admitted discomfort, but said questioning these methods wasn't encouraged. Internally, the justification was simple. Everyone does it. But evidence showed that wasn't true. Other national programs condemned the practice when news broke, confirming that Canada's normalization of drone spying was isolated and alarming. Attention soon turned to former women's team coach John Herdman, whose success had lifted Canada to Olympic gold in 2021. Multiple reports linked the origin of drone use to his tenure, suggesting the system may have begun under his watch and carried into Priestman's. Herdman denied direct involvement, but acknowledged being generally aware of analysis work happening while he was in charge. Expanding investigations. FIFA widened its investigation to determine how long the surveillance had gone on, and whether it influenced results in prior events such as the 2021 Olympics, and recent World Cups. Officials sought internal communications, documents, and testimony from current and former staff. Under pressure, Canada Soccer commissioned its own independent review, hiring an outside law firm to evaluate governance failures and cultural issues. It was both a damage control maneuver and a sign the organization knew the problem ran deep. Meanwhile, sponsors and government agencies demanded transparency about how such violations could persist unchecked. Priestman's suspension, originally temporary, later extended indefinitely. Questions lingered about her awareness of the spying before the Paris incident. Her public apology hadn't clarified her role, keeping suspicion alive. Senior Canada Soccer leadership also faced scrutiny. Either they'd been aware and complicit, or incompetent in oversight. Neither explanation restored trust. Impact on the field. Despite the chaos Canada's players had to carry on, they started the Olympic tournament 6 points in the hole without their head coach and surrounded by scandal they didn't create. In a twist of irony, their first opponent was New Zealand, the team they had spied on. Canada won that match 2-1, lifting them to -3 points. They went on to defeat France 2-1 and Colombia 1-0, winning all 3 group games under normal rules. 9 points virtually assured advancement. With the penalty, they finished with only 3 points, but managed to squeak into the knockout stage as one of the best third-place teams. It was a remarkable athletic response under impossible circumstances. Still, doubts hung over every victory. Critics questioned whether footage from other opponents had been gathered before the ban. None was proven, but the suspicion tainted the team's accomplishments. Even the gold medal from Tokyo 2021 came under retroactive scrutiny. Was that triumph clean? The players' efforts on the field were overshadowed by the misconduct above them, ethical reckoning. The scandal reignited global debate about sportsmanship. In modern soccer, teams study every available second of opposing match footage. But there's a clear boundary between research and espionage. Using drones to record private sessions crossed into the latter. Canada Soccer's rationalization that others do it found no backing. Coaches from major federations publicly condemned the behavior as unethical and beyond acceptable competition practices. The scandal exposed a rift between Canada's internal perception of competitive edge and what the rest of the soccer world defines as cheating. The rise of cheap, high-quality drone technology added another dimension. For FIFA, this was a warning sign. Modern surveillance tools had outpaced the organization's rules. Enforcement had to evolve to stop teams from blurring ethical lines with new tech. The Canada affair became the cautionary case study that forced global soccer to modernize its controls. Women's soccer, in particular, suffered collateral damage. The Olympic stage had been a spotlight for the sport's growth, equality, and legitimacy. Now, instead of skill or strategy, attention shifted to scandal. For players who'd fought for recognition for years, this controversy felt like a setback that unfairly overshadowed clean competition. Final sanctions. By October 2024, FIFA concluded its investigation and released its official penalties. Bev Priestman received a 1-year global suspension. Lombardi and Mander were banned 8 and 10 months, respectively. Canada Soccer itself was fined 200,000 Swiss francs, about $226,000, and publicly censured for systemic ethical breaches. The personal fallout was enormous. Priestman, once a rising figure in women's coaching, saw her career derailed. Even after serving her ban, the stigma of leading a program caught cheating made her return uncertain. Lombardi and Mander's reputations were similarly scarred. In a competitive profession where credibility is everything, the loss of trust proved devastating. Institutionally, Canada Soccer's credibility hit rock bottom. International partners grew wary. Future tournaments would see stricter oversight of Canada's conduct, and opponents began securing their training environments more rigorously. The nation that had once symbolized progress in women's soccer was now synonymous with an ethics crisis. The aftermath and broader lessons. The saga permanently changed how teams approach training security. Olympic venues and national programs began deploying drone jammers, employing airspace monitors, and constructing closed, covered practice pitches to prevent aerial espionage. The openness of team preparations, a long-held tradition in soccer, gave way to a new era of secrecy prompted directly by the scandal. FIFA also rewrote its competition regulations, banning drones and remote surveillance devices outright and specifying severe competitive punishments for violations, including point deductions and possible expulsion from tournaments. The Canada case had set a powerful precedent and forced international sports governance to catch up to modern technology. Still, lingering questions remained. Did drone surveillance contribute to Canada's previous success, including their 2021 gold medal run? No conclusive proof surfaced, but public doubt remains, an invisible asterisk beside that historic win. Even if unfair, the suspicion represents lasting harm to both the organization's legacy and the trust of athletes who'd competed honestly. For the players, it was a bitter lesson in collective consequence. They worked tirelessly and competed with integrity, yet their achievements were now linked to acts they neither ordered nor benefited from directly. In the world of team sport, when leadership breaches ethics, everyone absorbs the fallout. In the end, Canada's drone scandal became more than an Olympic controversy. It was a turning point for international soccer, a modern reminder that as technology evolves, so must accountability. When ambition and innovation blur ethics, even high-flying programs can crash hard. It's a story of how one nation's drive to get ahead by any means exposed deeper cultural flaws, triggered structural reform, and redefined how the global game guards its integrity. Because in the pursuit of victory, there's a fine line between being prepared and being caught with a drone over your opponent's field.